Hello, my dear friend, class 12. Now, today I am going to discuss about the second part of The Eyes Habit written by Ruskin Bond. So, last day I discussed all about the story and the title and the central idea and the whole story. Now, today I am going to finish the story. So, the time is very less in our hand. Last day, what happened in the last day? Last day, I have given few questions to you. I think you have done it. Now, repeatedly, I will discuss on what was the last questions on last day. That who was the girl passenger? How did the narrator assume that the girl passengers was going her first journey? How did he assume that the instructor were her parents? And finally, I told you to make a dialogue of the last day. It had a dialogue and summary. I think you have done it. And finally, now last day I have seen that they are going to, one is Saranpur, another is Dera. So the narrator was lucky. Why? Because the girl passenger thinks in the month of October, especially in the month of October, it was really amazing and enjoyable for everyone. Now, yes, this is the best time. I said, calling on my memories, the hills are covered with the wild dahlias, the sun is delicious, and night you can sit in front of log fire and drink a little brandy. Most of the tourists have gone, and the roads are quiet and almost deserted. Yes, October is the best in the time. দেখো পরীক্ষা এখান থেকে একটা খুব সুন্দর কোশ্চেন আছে কিন্তু যে why October is the best in especially in Mussoorie, because according to the author's memory, the wild dahlias fill the whole area of the hills, and you will get the delicious sunlight, which will give you the different taste of the hilly area. And in the evening, in front of the log fire, little bit warm with the brandy, the kind of wine that is the most attractive, most amazing. You can far away from the general world, and you can think what is the life. Another reason is that there was no disturbance at all. The tourists were not there, so there is no disturbance at all. So, my dear students, I think this is the main two reasons you have to write down the specialty in October, the traveling in Mussoorie. She was silent. Now, what is the interactions? You just try to remind this one. What is the interactions? She was silent. I wondered if my words had touched her, or whether she thought me a romantic fool. Then I made a mistake. I told you last day that the narrator was tried his level best to hide his total blindness. So there was a lot of confusions to a young mind. The young mind always attracted the others. Now the question is there whether she would realize the truth if the descriptions was touched her heart. So why she was not responding, or whether she thought that the narrator was really romantic fool. Then I made a mistake. The truth never be hidden, but we are the people who are trying to do that. Means sometimes the internal eye also failure that we forgot all about. Whether is it like outside, I asked. That was a very interesting questions, given by the author to the girl passengers, because a man could ask anyone who could see anything. The narrator was himself blind, but he asked the question, what? Whether she would see anything outside. She seemed to find nothing strange in these questions, had she noticed already that I could not see. But her next questions removed my doubt. What is the narrator? She seemed to find nothing strange. The narrator's questions was not to be very surprised to the girl passenger, because she noticed already that he could not see. What do you mean? That actually expressed that the girl passengers was also wants to avoid these kinds of these kinds of questions to watch the outside. And the narrator was really doubtful whether his blindness could be revealed by the girl. Why don't you look outside the windows, he asked. So this question, when the girl passengers asked him that why he was asking to him, why he would not see if he is most lovable to the outside, that questions actually clear the doubts of the narrator that the girl passengers was unable to capture the blindness of the narrator. I moved easily along the path and felt for the window's ledge. The window was open and I faced it, making a pretense of studying the landscape. I heard the panting of the engine, the rumble of the wheels, and in my mind's eye, I could see telegraph posts flashing by. That paragraph will give you what is the internal eye. How did the narrator actually want to give a pose that he was a good watcher, good observer. Though he was blind, he is now pretending, he was doing the drama, that he was watching everything outside the window, and according to the rumbling of the wheels, the train's wheels are making different kinds of sound according to the speed. So as the narrator was the daily passengers, he knows when the train in which speed and where it was going on by hearing the other passengers' discussions. Now he tried his level best to discuss that the lamp post was passing by, flashing by, giving the light, and how the train was going on with the different kinds of scenario here and there. So have you noticed, I ventured, that the trees seem to be moving while we seem to be standing still. That always happens. He said, do you see any animals? Now, one thing you just try to remember. Have you noticed, I ventured? The narrator actually wanted to discuss, you want to share the matter that the trees seem to be going well. When what is normally happening when you are going to speed, something is now going to backwards. It's normal happen. It's a normal theory of the Newton's first law. So that always happens, he said. That is common. By the girl actually reported him that it was common. Now ask a very different questions. Whether he had seen any kinds of animals there where the train was passing. No, I answered quite confidently. I knew that there were hardly any animals left in the forest near there. I turned from the window and faced the girl, and for a while he said in silence, "You have an interesting face," I remarked. I was becoming quite daring, but it was a safe remark. Few girls can resist flattery. She laughed pleasantly, a clear ringing laugh. That part actually very much amazing. Descriptions by Ruskin Bond. Narrator gave a negative answer that there was no, because he knew very well confident that in that area basically no forest. In the forest of near there was no animals at all living there. And after facing to the girl, the narrator make a very bold questions. And he thought it will please her and make a good friendship, cordial friendship. And what is the questions, You have an interesting face. To ask this question, you have an interesting face. My dear students, now you are in the 17 and 18 age. You feel it. If you ask a questions like that to a girl, it's no doubt a very gallant. It's a very brave questions. You can't imagine that you can ask a questions to an unknown girl about her facing. Narrator very much well known about it, that the girl were flattered by hearing this one. They are very much praised with this word that she was looking very nice. मेरा साधारणतः এটা খুব পছন্দ করে about his beauty. So after remark the narrator, what was the reaction of the girl? A question গুলো কিন্তু আস্তে আস্তে তোমরা লিখে নেবে. What was the reaction? The girl was really pleased and laughing with a pleasantly a clear ringing laugh. So narrator was really interested with these questions. It's nice to be told I have an interesting face. I'm tired of people telling me I have a pretty face. And that answer actually demotivated the narrator. Why? Because normally the narrator thought that the girl will pleased and maybe make the friendship more concretized. But what happened? The girl actually gave a very bold answer that it was very easy talking. It was a repeated talk, repeated line in her life, because she was so much interesting. She was so beautiful. She knows from the very beginning of her life. So the narrator was demotivated and tried to change the matter. What? By saying, oh, so you do have a pretty face. Though and aloud I said, well, an interesting face can also be pretty. What do you mean here? An interesting face can also be pretty. That means the narrator was tried to say, okay, you have heard that you have an interesting face. No doubt. Attractive face. No doubt. But, well, an interesting face can also be pretty. The philosophy is there. What is the philosophy? Philosophy is there that yes, you are right. I'm agree with you. But an interesting face can be pretty, can be beautiful, can be attractive. Oh, so you do have a pretty face and aloud I said, well, an interesting face can also be pretty. You are a very gallant young man to say it, but why are you so serious? I told you, the narrator was asking these questions. No doubt it is a very brave questions. It's never be possible. Anyone can clap you in front of anyone. I thought then I would try to laugh for her, but the thought of laughter only made me feel troubled and lonely. The narrator tried to minimize the case, turned the case into another way, and thought that he would laugh sometimes to praise the girl, to divert the girl about the matter, but he didn't. Why? Because he thought that it made more trouble to the narrator. We will soon be at your station, I said. Thank goodness. It's a short journey. I can't bear to sit a train for more than 2 or 3 hours. Now, in that way, when the little bit gossiping is now come to an end, because the Saharanpur is very near, and when the narrator was informed her that the station Saharanpur is very near too, because he was experienced one, he was the daily passenger, he knew all about it. And what is the reactions of the girl? The girl was exposing that yes, she was very much boring on a journey, more than 2 or 3 hours in a train. It was really a negative approach by the girl to the narrator. Yet, I always prepared to sit there for almost any length of time. Mind it, just to listen to her talking, her voice had the sparkle of a mountain stream. As soon as she left the train, she would forget your brief encounter, but it would stay with me for the rest of the journey and for some time after. Yes, I was prepared. What is that? The girl passenger told that she was feeling bored about passing 2 or 3 hours in a journey, but immediately the narrator answered very positively that no, you are wrong. I am very much interested to pass any length of time for passing these kinds of dreaming meet with my dreaming girl. You know, her voice had the sparkle of mountain stream. Now this is the good descriptions that how he was laughing. The girl's laughs actually made the narrator so attractive. As soon as he left the train, the narrator thinks into the another world. He was to the alonity. He thought that then the girl passengers could get down from the train and went to her destination and forgot all about this, the brief encounter, brief gossiping to each other, brief meeting to each other. But he never will. Because he loved her by heart. His heart was more welcome to the girl. And this girl basically attracted to his mind, fixed to his mind. And he can pass any time with her. But it was unfortunate for him that he could not get the chance to pass with him. So it's a good time in his life and he want to keep it in his mind. The engine's whistle sarked. The carriage wheels changed their sound and rhythms. The girl got up and began to collect the things. I wondered if she wore her hair in the bun or if it was plaited. Perhaps it was hanging loose over her shoulders or was it carved very short. This paragraph will provide you that how the narrator was attracted with this girl and imagined a lot of as the wheels of the coaches are now rumbling rhythmic way and slowing and slowing and slowing. Now it is very near to the station. And the girl passengers collecting his bag and baggages, the narrator was really upset that now he would be alone. Now he tried to imagine that how was the hair of the girl, whether it was a bun, it was a bundle type, or it was a type of plaited, binuni bandano ache, or whether it is like a coil or a cut short. In this way, he imagined so much and thought about the girl. My dear student, I am now completing that part. And the last part, what is the most amusement, I will discuss on the next day. But it is my request that you have to do this types of word meaning there. Now some questions is there, you just try to write down. I am giving you some questions which will help you the more fluent in this lesson. Number one, why October is the important in Dhera? What is the mistake done by the narrator to capture his blindness? What is the questions or brave questions asked by the narrator? What was the reaction of the girl? And finally, what is the date? What is the dream the narrator actually watched and how he imagined about the girl? If you give this answer of these questions on next day, I hope your lessons could be completed. And next day I will complete it. Thank you. Wait for the next day.